Welcome to the Glow Code podcast. My name is Kate Dove and I'm your host. The Glow Code podcast is a collection of bite-sized conversations designed to help you step into your main character energy, glow up, and connect with your femininity. This podcast is for the woman who wants to radiate her beauty from the inside out and move through the world with authenticity. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode, and let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Glow Code podcast. I just got done doing a Kriya yoga practice not too long ago, and it's something that I first came across in June. I want to say beginning to the middle of June, and I never heard of Kriya yoga before, but now I really love it, and it connects to the topic that we're going into today on affirmations, because in Kriya yoga, not only is there movement and breathing, but it is combined with mantras. And I really noticed that by activating my voice, along with the breathing and bringing everything into the body, I truly felt a difference. I truly felt a shift. And I think it is so different from other practices that kind of separate all of these things. Like when I do Kriya yoga, I find that I'm much more focused. I feel a lot more present and calm, especially in public, because I always had an issue with like zoning out or disassociation in public, and connecting with my body through my voice and movement and breathing all in one has brought a new level of safety to my body, which is really cool because I've spent a long time doing nervous system practices, doing breath work, doing movement, but it felt like this was a technique where I could combine everything together. And so now I really love it. I did it every single day for like 40 days, I believe. And now I do it like once or twice a week, but it is still probably one of my favorite mindfulness practices. So if you've never done it before, I highly recommend it. There are many different types of Kriya yoga. You can do one for happiness, for beauty, for sexuality. There's a lot out there, and I typically just go on YouTube and find one. So with that being said, I wanted to talk about affirmations today because I think a lot of us have gotten into the manifestation and personal development space from the concept of affirmations. And affirmations are a great way to give ourselves a different perspective of what we want and what we need. However, there tends to be a missing piece when people start doing affirmations. Well, there's a couple of missing pieces, but I'm gonna go into that. Whenever I think of someone, or even if I just hear someone say that they've been doing affirmations and it feels like they're not working, I automatically think of this scene from Sex and the City. It's my favorite TV show ever. I probably watch all the seasons like twice a year, like back to back. And it's honestly my favorite comfort show. But there's an episode where two of the characters, Charlotte and Carrie, go to this event where this woman is speaking, and I believe she was supposed to be an author who wrote a book about affirmations when it comes to finding love. And so they were doing the Q&A portion, and Charlotte stands up and she says, I've been using my affirmations, but I feel like they're not really working and I don't know what to do. And the woman says, just keep doing them, just stick with them, and eventually your heart will catch up with your head. Then I forget exactly what Charlotte says, but she essentially starts talking about more details on her journey, and she says, I did have love, I did find love, and we had a beautiful wedding, and all of that. and then they ended up getting divorced, and she wanted to find love again, but she wasn't sure, you know? And so the woman was like, you have to put yourself out there. And Charlotte's friend Carrie, who is the narrator and the number one main character of the show, says like, no, she really puts herself out there. And like the woman on the stage didn't know what to say, and Charlotte and Carrie then left. And what I would have loved to tell her character if she was a real person was that, one, you have to work through the grieving process of your old life and your old self, but also with affirmations, they don't quote unquote work unless we are proving to ourselves that they are working. There also needs to be a slight shift in the wording. So typically affirmations are like, I am wealthy, I am successful, I am married to the love of my life. But the problem is when we start saying that to ourselves, our brain is actually trying to disagree with us hard. From the time we are in the womb up until 7 years old, those are the years where our unconscious mind is setting a foundation and our body is learning that as our standard. And our mind is creating stories about our reality in every area of life. And we carry those with us as we continue to grow up and into adulthood. And from those foundational beliefs, we create more of the same thing. We often don't realize that we are creating something from a foundation that was built when we were just a kid on an unconscious level, because we were just a sponge absorbing everything around us. So when we reach adulthood, we are constantly playing out those stories in our mind and in our life. So when we start saying affirmations, what happens is our unconscious mind is actually wanting to reject it. There is a part of our brain called the Reticular Activating System, and this system acts as like a filter for the mind, and it takes in what is relevant and leaves what it doesn't believe is relevant. If you are saying in the mirror, I am wealthy, but you currently have some financial struggles, you have car repairs, and maybe you need to put money aside for groceries and whatever else is going on. If you grew up with some form of scarcity, and maybe if you grew up not having access to money or resources, when you say, I'm wealthy, your mind is rejecting that because it doesn't fit into the sensory response that your body has attached to this other belief and to this other experience. Our body wants to hold on to familiarity and our unconscious mind, and they both connect and communicate with one another. So when we are simply just saying affirmations, we are actually giving our body more chances to try to do the opposite. Our brain and our body are doing this to try to protect us, because again, these are stories and narratives that we created early on in our childhood when we were learning about the world around us and relationships. Luckily, our brain can be rewired and we can shift those stories and beliefs and our experience. I often think that affirmations are like fake orgasms, because if you are faking an orgasm, for example, stay with me here, even though you might be like moving your body in a way to simulate an orgasmic response, or maybe you're like making more noise and moaning louder, everything in you knows that you are not having an orgasm and you're just trying to get to the end basically, because obviously if you're faking an orgasm, maybe you're not enjoying the experience, or maybe there's some shame in there and you're trying to learn more about your body and your pleasure and everything like that. But there is that element of shame or dread that comes with a fake orgasm, and also not expressing ourselves in the way that you want. Also, if you hear a clicking noise in the background, it's just my crock pot, and I'm making dinner. So if you hear that, that's what's going on in the background. So when we are saying affirmations, or maybe putting on the fancy clothes, whatever we're trying to do to simulate the experience of that affirmation, our brain really knows that it's not happening and that it's not our reality. So the way that we can actually use affirmations to our advantage is firstly by shifting the wording. So instead of saying I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, you can word it as I'm seeing every single day how I'm becoming more wealthy. Or you can turn it into a question. And I really love the question piece because it gets your mind going in like a non-stressful way. It has like a very investigative type of energy, and personally I really like that. I'm a Virgo, so that resonates with me. And you can word it as, how am I becoming so wealthy? These are called affirmations, and there are actually lots of YouTube video meditations with affirmations in them. And I especially love to listen to these at nighttime because as you're falling asleep, you're asking questions and you're allowing your mind to find the solutions and come up with the solutions. So it also takes the pressure off of the how. That brings me to the second part of this, whether you are using your affirmation as a question or like the first example that I gave, you want to prove to yourself how that is happening. We want to get the body involved with our affirmations and in any manifestation in general. And if you want to hear more on that, you can go to the episode on making manifestation a sensual experience. So what you're going to do from here is you're going to start keeping track of all of the small ways that this is becoming a reality. And you don't want to limit yourself to just the one area of life. So if you are wanting to call in more abundance in your finances, don't just look at the abundance coming through in your money, but in the other areas of life. There are 8 areas of life. We have physical, mental and emotional, spiritual, family, which includes marriage. Then there is social, which would be your dating relationships and friendships. Then you have your hobbies and passions, financial, and vocational, which would be your career. So you want to pay attention to all 8 areas of life and how you are abundant in each of those. I had to pause the recording really quickly because the Mr. Softy ice cream truck came around and the music was just so loud. And I'm recording this podcast at 5:30 at night, and I'm just looking at the time like, why are you trying to give these children ice cream when like they need to eat dinner first? But anyway, back to the topic. To give you an example of an affirmation that I use, I have it in my notes, and it is, my success is a result of my goddess energy, because I really want to keep this standard of flow in my life. I hate stagnancy. I need to feel like things are moving along and like things are free flowing and not restricted. So when I write down how my success is a result of my goddess energy. Not only am I looking at finances and career because that was my intention with this, but I'm also looking at my physical health, my emotional health, my marriage. So, for example, I can look in the mirror and I'll be like, oh, my abs are coming in really nice. And that is because I've been pole dancing, which has felt really fun to me and really feminine. So I'll write that down because my success has been a result of my goddess energy in that area of my life. When you notice these moments, really take a second to connect with them emotionally, because we want to show our body that this new experience is safe. And when we feel safety, we can then implement it as our new standard in life. So even if you have a financial goal or a financial affirmation, let's say you get a $5 discount on something, you can log that as one of your moments, because then this is going to start training your reticular activating system to focus more on these experiences and these new stories rather than the old one. Especially if you go the route of using the questions, the affirmations, it's so fun to actually see the result of it, because then you're like, oh yeah, I remember, like, I was asking myself that question and now it's here and I manifested it and I attracted it into my life. So play around with these and get creative with them. And also in your affirmations, you can put what you want that experience to feel like. So another one that I have is every day I am seeing how happily successful I am, because you can say I'm successful all day long and maybe you associate that with a certain income increase or your living situation, but that doesn't guarantee that you will be happy and fulfilled. So when we can combine all these together, the emotions, the experiences, the way that we are asking our mind a question and implementing new stories in ways that our unconscious mind can actually understand, that is where we connect the dots. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. And next week is going to be a birthday episode because I will be turning 24. And I don't know why, but I'm just so looking forward to this birthday, like more than any other birthday I've ever had. So next week's episode is going to be 24 things that I've learned in 24 years. So stay tuned for that episode on September 19th. I will see you all in the next episode.